you stay here and listen, your life will never be the same. 'Cause we're talking with T-Bird now. And this T-Bird you cannot change. Oh, this T-Bird you cannot change. And things might get pretty strange.
Yes, that's right. Talking with T-Bird is back once again after a couple of weeks off. We have a great one for you today. Dawn Meehan, a Survivor South Pacific, Survivor Caramoan. We've watched them back-to-back weeks in the all-time top 40 countdown. We'll talk about all that and more with Dawn Meehan today. But the woman who tracked down Dawn, here she is. It's Teresa T-Bird Cooper.
Hey, Rob. How in the world are you?
Yeah, doing great, T-Bird. What's new with you?
Good. Well, I actually have been listening to your recaps, and
You
I
have?
want to thank Allie and yes, absolutely, because South Pacific and Caramoan have been a little ways back. When I think South Pacic's been 10 years ago, and Caramoan's been what? I don't know, however many years it's been. It's been a while. So, yes, I listened to both of them. And Allie and Akiva for Caramoan were absolutely great. And Allie, I've learned something from Allie. I see she has props. She uses props, which was so cute.
Mm-hmm.
And then Akiva has this little squeeze ball, which I guess he calls his avocado that he was using.
Mm-hmm.
So, learning things from them. And then I was enjoying Beth and Scally's doing South Pacific with you. So they're really helpful as far as talking to our guests.
Good.
And getting current. So thank you. Thank you for that.
T-Bird,
that
it's
way I didn't
wild
have
that
to-
you listen to the podcast.
Oh, yeah. It's part of my homework.
Yeah.
Because Glenn came in and I said, I've got to listen to this podcast, baby. I said, this one is 4.5 hours. And then as I'm getting to the end of it, I'm hearing you and Akiva saying, this is the longest one we've done. I'm thinking, oh, dear Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And it was. I listened to every minute of it.
Why, do you want to try to break the record?
Minute of it. No, I was just listening, I kept thinking that y'all might say something at the very, very end that I might need to know, but I did get in to hear hashtag 3 Amigos break the record. So I listened to it all the way.
Look,
and that's how
T-Bird,
you know.
look, I might be able to do a podcast for 4.5 hours, but I'm pretty sure that you had your hand over your head attached to that bucket for longer in Africa.
I can't even imagine that. You know how you just do things and you don't even think about it?
Mm-hmm.
But it's okay, Rob. I just put on my headset and go work out, and then I'm listening and I'm learning things I'd forgotten about and hearing y'all's take on it. It's fun. It's good.
So how long did you have your hand over your
head? It's
head?
part of homework.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it was a little over 6 hours.
6 hours. Yeah. I mean, I could sit here and do a podcast. I'm sitting in a chair talking. Like, that's no big thing.
I don't know, because I even heard Allie was saying, Rob, how do you do this? How do you sit here and talk for 4 hours? Well, Rob, it's a little different when you're, playing for $1 million.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
It's a little different when you're, so I had to do what I had to do. So that's just part of it. That's just part of the game.
Okay. What have you been up to the last couple of weeks?
Baking bread.
Baking bread. Yes?
Yes.
Because you're inspired?
That's what Dawn does. That's what Dawn does
mm-hmm.
as therapy. So that's what I did. I did a little bread therapy. I had never done that before because we have a bread machine. And I actually did bread from just getting in with it, with the dough and just getting in with it. And I love it. So I learned. It's funny how it seems like I learned something from each of our guests. And that's my takeaway from Dawn.
You take something away from everybody.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
T-Bird, have you kept in touch with Mad Dog?
Yes, I have stayed in touch with Mad Dog. I have.
Yes. Everything's going good with Mad Dog?
What a great podcast that was.
Yes.
Everything's going good with Mad Dog, yes.
Yes.
She was very, I think she was very humbled,
mm-hmm.
which, with us talking to her and I think it was, I know she enjoyed it. I know we all enjoyed having her. So
Yeah.
I know you enjoyed having her. That was the neatest thing. Is
I loved it so much.
How you reacted to it.
The bar is high today to follow up after Mad Dog. All right. Let's get to Dawn, but first, let me take a moment and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. Those are our friends over at Honey, the browser extension that saves you money. You can get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/RHAP. joinhoney.com/RHAP. Look, T-Bird, we all shop online, and every time you go online, there's that little box that says like promo code, and it taunts you. It's like if you knew the password, you could get in here, you could save some money, and then you try to Google stuff, and you end up on a bunch of terrible websites. But thanks to Honey, manually searching for the coupon codes, that's a thing of the past. Forget about it. Honey is the free shopping tool that scours the internet like it's looking for a hidden immunity idol for promo codes and applies the best one to fit in your cart. Honey supports over 30,000 stores online. They range from sites that have tech and gaming products to popular fashion brands and even food delivery. So when you're shopping on one of your favorite sites and you get to the checkout, when that Honey button drops down, all you have to do is click apply coupons. It's like you are like winning at the slot machine when that little button comes up, because you know you're going to start saving money. Wait a few seconds. Honey is going to click through all of the coupons it can find for the site. And when it finds a working coupon, it'll use the best one and you'll watch the prices drop. T-Bird, I have used this a lot when I go shopping online, especially when I am sending things like flowers or any sort of like a gift that you would send to people online, like baskets and things like that. You can save 15%, 20% online. I have used it on different printing websites as well to save some serious money, sometimes like 50 and 60% on different websites where you're going to get stuff printed. Can you believe it, T-Bird?
Hey, I can't believe it. Give me that code for Honey right now.
You don't need the code. It finds the code for you. That's all you have to do. Let's go to joinhoney.com/RHAP. Okay. Honey has found its over 17 million members, over $2 billion in savings. And if you don't already have Honey, you could be missing out on free savings. It's literally free and installs in a few seconds. And by getting it, you'll be doing yourself a solid and supporting the podcast. I'd never recommend it if I didn't use it. So get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/RHAP. That's joinhoney.com/RHAP. All right, T-Bird, why don't you do us the honor and introduce Dawn?
Okay. Today's guest knew from the very start, season 1 Borneo, that she wanted to be more than a Survivor fan. At 30 years old, she started applying and going through the casting process. She would finally be cast for season 21, only to be replaced 2 weeks before the game was to begin. Disappointed? Absolutely. Discouraged? Never. We would eventually see her at the age of 42 on season 21 South Pacific. This kind, well-liked player would make it to day 27, but not before leaving behind a lasting impression. We would see her again almost a year to the day on season 25, Caramoan, Fans versus Favorites. Most players that play again will play much the same as their first time. But this former college professor from BYU said, quote, "If you give kids a test, they'll do better the second time," end quote. This would indeed prove to be accurate for her. The South Pacific Dawn would be replaced by the new Dawn, and she would go into her second chance with a different strategy. She was determined and even, well, a little cutthroat. "If you didn't have my last name, I could vote against you," she had said. She would accomplish exactly what she had wanted. She got as far as she could, making it to day 39. Quote, "I was in charge of my own game and got to the end with my best friend," end quote. Yes, the Misfits from South Pacific would control the game. But after a weight loss of 27 pounds, no sleep for 11 days, then being humiliated by a bitter jury, largely due to her vote against Brenda, She leaned over to Cochran at the final tribal council and feeling as if she was having a literal breakdown said, quote, "I think I might need medical attention," end quote. After that final tribal council, she was taken to a hospital in Manila, then accompanied back home by the cast psychologist, Dr. Liza, with follow-up calls by Mark Burnett and Jeff Probst. The reaction from the fans would sadly be similar as the jury, and this mom of 6 would become vilified. She said it was a double standard. "I felt abandoned, then betrayed. I played the same exact game as Cochran. He stabbed them in the back. I stabbed them in the front." She ended up closing off all social media to keep her children sheltered from the unpopular opinions. She said the difficult days made her stronger and that the negative didn't define it for her. The positive did. It was her family, friends, and therapy, bread therapy, that got her through the challenging days, baking up to 10 loaves a day, mailing out up to 120 loaves. So, in honor of our guest today, I decided to give this form of therapy a try this week and found that making bread definitely slows things down, is physical, takes time, is relaxing, a great homemade treat to share, and an inexpensive form of therapy. Joining us today, I am thrilled to introduce the lady I have mucho respect for so many reasons. The player who has said she would not play again since she has already experienced the best of both worlds each time she played. RHAP listeners, Dawn Meehan.
Hi.
Yes, Dawn, how are you?
Hey, Dawn.
Well, I'm great after that introduction for the love.
Nobody does it like T-Bird. And
That's so
so
kind.
excited to get to hear from you. It has been 8 years since we've heard from you on the podcast, and that time has flown by. And we used to see you, I feel like, regularly, because I feel like in the early days of Robin's podcast, you played in your seasons, and you were on Twitter, and I feel like that you were like a fixture. And then now we've gone so long without hearing from you.
Yeah, I think, part of that has to do with, the way that I ended the game. I learned a lot about social media, and I really tried to emphasize in my life what my priorities were.
Sure. So we'd love to get some updates on how everything has been going since we've heard from you, Dawn.
Yeah, well, I think the main thing is I've retired from teaching at BYU.
Yes.
So I've done it probably in reverse to a lot of moms. I think some people do work and kids full-time, maybe kids, more work on the side, full-time kids. And now I have my kids older and I'm home with them more as peers. So 2 of my kids have married.
Congratulations.
Thank you. 2 are seniors.
Yes.
And because of the pandemic, most of them are with us. Dave is great. He still works for Adobe. I just started another degree in psychology online.
Oh, wow.
So that I have a way to keep my brain active. And I think, I still make bread.
You were making it before it was popular, Dawn.
I know. What's that all about?
Know it. Yes.
It is.
Dawn,
delicious.
Dawn, it is so, Dawn, when I was reading about you and learning about you, and I had some things that happened this week, and I thought, I made some bread for one reason for you, but then yesterday I actually made it because of you, because of how it got you through, because and it's amazing. It does help. And I think, Dawn, probably I'm an active person, probably like you are. So for me to sit and read, it's hard for me to do that. I like to move around. So baking bread, you're standing, or most of the time, I guess you could stand, but you've got your upper body, your arms and your hands are in it. It's really therapeutic. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's definitely been one of the greatest things I've learned. It's kind of a crazy thing. I have all these classes that I took in college that I don't even remember. And then this small thing that someone taught me on the side in 20 minutes has like had this really profound impact on my life. And it was a great thing because after the first time I played, I was able to send it to a lot of people. And then I do definitely still send it. And I've made a lot of friends as a result of it. I think I've auctioned it. I've sold it as doorstops because it takes so long to get to places.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's a big part of me. I think the other thing that was hard and maybe why I like unplugged for a bit is I didn't know this, but I had crushed 3 vertebrae in Survivor South Pacific.
Yes.
Yeah, holding the weights on my shoulders with the bamboo and shoulder the load.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know that. And so I just kept thinking, oh, it's like a kink. And it took me a lot of exercise after and even through season 26. I had the pain, but I wasn't aware that that's what it was. And I think I thought back problems were for like old people. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't do anything about it, but I ended up having to have a spinal fusion a year ago.
Oh my God.
I know, right?
Good grief. Wow.
And so I've kind of had to do more of me just as a way of like getting through that procedure and accommodate, like learning to adapt in a few ways because I can't do a back bend anymore.
Wow.
Because you lose mobility.
And Dawn,
yeah.
And Dawn, that's really interesting because, we've talked to some people talking with T-Bird who have had, of course, mental issues due to the show, the difficulties, and also physical problems. Didn't Katie Gallagher tell us, Rob? I mean, and she had, you don't think about that. You think, oh, I'm just going out here to play this game, but things do happen that stick with you for the rest of your life. So, yeah.
That was pretty major, but I always tell people we won chickens for that. So I think it was like a good trade.
For your back.
Yeah.
That was an impressive challenge, by the way, Dawn, because I was watching it. I had forgot, it's been a while. So watching it, I hadn't remembered that you had won that. And I thought, I'm not sure Dawn can win this challenge. And as I kept watching, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Oh my gosh. It was fantastic. So I know you're proud of it. I know you hate to lose the use of your back.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, no,
because,
no. It's not even
that was impressive.
About that.
Yeah. Dawn, was that because when the bar slips off your shoulders, right, and is on your back, and then you and Stacy both have is that when you feel like that injury happened? Yeah,
I knew something happened, but and so in confidence, like 2 of the people on my tribe who also participated had like more medical immediately, like hernia. Stuff like that.
I don't think they've done that challenge since then.
Yeah. I don't either.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
So, Dawn, what's that been? 7 or 8 years you've gone through this pain until, when did you say you had
a year ago
fusion done to your back? Oh, a year ago. Okay. So you dealt with this pain for a long time.
Yeah, but I kept thinking, because I, try to work out, I just kept thinking it's, it'll remedy itself at some point.
And you're feeling okay now?
I think it takes like 18 months or something until they can kind of declare that it was like successful. So when I do all that they tell me to do, I do. I feel good, but I'm probably I think people use this term like flippantly, but I don't mean it flippantly. I do think I have like an inability. I'm a hummingbird. An inability to sit still. I think if you were to just follow me and do like speed up the cuts on the show, you would just die laughing at how many times I am sitting down for like 3 seconds and then I get up and walk and then sit down again and walk and sit down again and walk. Mm-hmm. I'm not very sedentary. Like this will be a challenge, the 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, Dawn, also, God, I don't know which direction to go with you. There's so much I want to talk to you about. But let me start with, you played, a year and a half from when you played South Pacific to Caramoan? And in Survivor years, that's a short period of time physically.
It's actually 10 months.
Yeah.
It's 10 months.
Oh, that's right. Before taping. That's got to be extremely challenging. Were you just excited about going back? Did you think about the toll, or I guess just after the fact?
No, I didn't think about anything other than I wanted to play. I saw Sophie, my previous season, receive that $1 million check, and I just thought, that's got to be me. And I just didn't understand. My brain couldn't wrap itself around how that would be a possibility again. And from what I understand, there was someone else that, they expected to kind of fit into that role of mom or female that's older. But I ended up, ironically, I think it flipped. The first time they knocked me out for season 21, and for season 26, I knocked them out. So no one expected.
Oh, let's give her a name, Dawn. Let's give her a name, because we just talked to her, a month or two ago. It's Holly Hoffman. There seems to be so many similarities between y'all. Y'all are both, you're amazing, amazing women. But even the way you played your games, you were both loved and respected, of course. And you both had times during the game where you wanted to leave.
Dawn, do you say to yourself ever I wish they would have picked Holly for season 26?
Oh, no. I don't have any regrets about the experience at all. None. After the game, my comment to Cochran, I've been really I think in 10 months to lose that much weight and then regain it, lose it, it's just messes with you.
Yeah.
It's not good to lose that much weight for any of us, not just me. Yeah. But the reason I turned to Cochran was because I really did believe that I was starting to hallucinate at the end of the game, and I was letting production know when we would do walks. I would tell them, I want you to understand, I'm watching this game from above. And that was probably just the final 3 days. And so I was concerned more about okay, I'm still self-aware, so maybe it's okay. I'm okay. But after getting kind of a reality check on how much the game had, how it impacted other people, I think that was a reality that I hadn't paid attention to. I think at Tribal Council, I got a real sense of, oh man, this really hurt people. And I wasn't really considering that. I was really considering how to get to the end with Cochran, because that was the plan day one. We always said, let's try to win $1.1 million. It's shy of that with being final three, but that was the goal. And I think it's actually worked out well, because both of us, I didn't want my life to change. I wasn't looking to be on television. I wasn't looking to, have a side gig. And I wanted to go back and teach. And so the gift or the compensation for playing allowed me to do some things with my family that I couldn't do before, but it didn't change my life. And likewise, it didn't change Cochran's, with the exception of his, now he writes. And so it afforded him some opportunities that way. But financially, he's been very generous with his money. So it's not like in my opinion, he's been really the same person, I think you give me that million, it's over.
He's a sex symbol now, and he didn't have that before. Let's not leave that out.
Yeah, I don't think he likes that, though.
Oh. Well, okay.
Yeah. Maybe, but I think he really does. I don't know. I talked to him last week, and I think his feeling is these people weren't there before. So it's odd to have them suddenly see him differently.
Yeah. Dawn, in going back and watching Caramoan, it seemed like that it was a very punishing season in terms of the lack of food that you had in that season, that a lot of the players comment on it for a number of different points throughout the game. I mean, Eric seems like that he basically goes out of the game for malnourishment, even though he's been on a bunch of rewards throughout the game. Was that something in particular from your two experiences? Because it doesn't seem to come up as much in South Pacific, and maybe that's because Ozzy is catching, fish or the fishing is better in that season, maybe. But was Caramoan like especially punishing in terms of lack of food?
Yeah, because the ocean in the Philippines where we were is overfished. Mm-hmm. So I never saw a fish. I saw a shark once, a baby shark. But outside of one time we got really large clams, like the kind that are on SpongeBob. Mm-hmm. And, that was a fluke. Yeah. So we didn't, if we could fish, because we had, Malcolm who can do that banana sling like nobody's business. And there just wasn't any protein really. I mean, we did have rice, mm-hmm. But if I remember correctly, and I really do love Brandon, but if I remember correctly, he did something to the rice, yes, to where it molded. So we definitely ate a good couple of days worth of molded rice.
Yeah,
which is healthy.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
Not ideal. Yeah.
And Dawn, I don't know if this will be a hard question to ask or not for you to answer, but the difference between when you played on South Pacific, all right, there were 2 returning players with Ozzy and Coach. And then, of course, on Fans versus Favorites, half of you were favorites. Would you have rather, do you think it would be easier to play on a cast with completely all new players instead of having those 2 returning on South Pacific? Or did you like the Caramoan where there was half returning players and half new, the fans? So which makes it easier.
Yeah, I liked the idea. I don't know. I like it on equal footing regardless of what it is. And I think if you have a fans versus favorites, it is just flat out, you're stacked. The people mm-hmm. who've played before, it's the same thing that I said. You've taken the test. You understand more about it and how it's going to go. Even something as simple as how do you get to the challenges, because they're obviously not built right in front of you, or else that would be an advantage in the game. So there's so much that you're taking in and absorbing as a newbie. It's nice if both of those tribes are on equal footing where it's new, mm-hmm. or in more like both tribes have played before. That's why I like heroes versus villains. And that's, for me, I kind of prefer that to be on equal footing.
Dawn, I thought it was very interesting when I went back and I watched the Caramoan finale recently, because Jeff is talking about the response that you had gotten during that season and how you turned your Twitter off towards the end of that season. And, Jeff comments on wow, this is like a whole new world. It used to be you would just yell at your TV. Now people go online and say, I don't like you, to the person that they don't like. And right. I don't know if necessarily at the time, that toxicity, was really, if people really understood where this whole thing was going. I feel like in a lot of ways you were sort of like patient zero of sort of the, toxic reality TV fan base, going in on a player.
Yeah, I think it did switch after me. There was just so much more involvement mm-hmm. in social media. I think even within those 10 months, because I can remember download Snapchat. We're talking about all these things I've got to create a Twitter account, for mm-hmm. the first time I played for season 23. By season 26, that everybody had access to me. And it's awesome if you work at a university that has a lot of your information public. So I would get a lot of mail at the university itself, which I was grateful it didn't come to my house. Yeah. I got a lot of packages at the university, which made everybody nervous, but they go through an anthrax scan. So it's kind of funny. And then it made the university nervous. And then, what
would people send you?
Oh, some people sent me like fan things,
yes.
Nice. I'm sorry you went through that, or, I have mental health problems. And I'm like, were you fasting for 39 days? Like, I mean, really, I believe that was what caused it. That was the springboard to having, not being healthy, but mentally healthy.
Yeah.
I lost your question.
Nobody was sending you like hateful packages, right?
Oh yeah, I received. Someone sent me blood, and then they wanted me to do something with it. Well, I never opened it to see that it was blood, but it was awesome because it was on a office hours days. Where your office is open for your students to come, and that's always wonky because then I've got people coming in that may not be students.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I opened it with my student there, and my kids had come to visit. So they were waiting outside the office. I mean, it's really bizarre what some people, mostly letters, but that's like Cochrane and I began to like flip it for ourselves instead of being like, oh, this is like so ugly and discouraging and negative. Because I would always say in my outreach, rather than rant at me, send your kindness to Brenda. She's the one that would benefit from the time you're spending, and then block them. But after a while, it just got too hard to do that. And that's what happened at the finale. I was just replying to everybody, just saying, send your kindness to Brenda, send your kindness to Brenda, trying to be consistent with who I am in my daily life.
Yeah.
And I'm not perfect, but I'm just saying that's where my head was then.
Mm-hmm. With the situation with Brenda, like going back and watching it, and I feel like it ties into like everything we're talking about with in terms of like, why were you chastised so much for making a game move where other people make game moves and don't have to like be raked over the coals to that degree? And I really feel like that I can understand why Brenda would be upset with you. I think that's like totally understandable why she would be upset. But I really felt like at the finale, I feel like that Jeff was really looking for you. They got Brenda on the Zoom call and they said, all right, well, now we have Brenda here, so you can apologize to Brenda. And, well, why do you have to apologize to Brenda?
I don't know anybody that's been asked to apologize. I've seen people that have voluntarily apologized, but I wouldn't have even voluntarily, because in my mind, I was playing the game.
Right.
The reason that I chose Brenda, which I think is really funny, because I think it gives the impression that I was like super close with her.
Mm-hmm.
I was super close with Cochrane, and I wanted him to help me they said, you can have one person help you. But he had lost a tube sock in that water about a foot away from where I knew my teeth were.
Yeah.
And he couldn't dive and get that damn tube sock. Mm-hmm. So how's he going to find something that's 2.5 inches in length?
She was a diver, Brenda.
I'm like, I'm going to go with Little Mermaid and have a much better chance, because for me, and I think I've said this maybe one time in print, but so I was attacked, and that's how I lost those teeth.
You were attacked?
So, yeah. Mm-hmm. Just 10 years before that, working for the university.
So I misunderstood. I thought you were saying in Caramoan, that was how you lost
them. Not in the game.
Got it.
The reason that it was like, I don't know that trigger is the right word, because that's even overused.
Sure.
But the reason that it was like a flashback for me is you're being filmed and no one can really disrupt that. There's a wall. So I'm kind of crying for help and there's no one responding. And when this happened, I was in New York alone, working for the university. It was really early in the morning and I was screaming for help. And I knew that I was missing some teeth. I wasn't certain. And no one replied. It was just like what's going on there? There was not a lot of Good Samaritan vibe.
Right.
So it felt real similar.
Yeah.
So I kind of just wanted out.
Dawn, what I'm curious, I would think that Brenda or anybody else that had come to help you, there's a part whether you're in the game or not in the game, it's just human kindness. It's just reaching out because obviously she saw what kind of situation that you were in. Do you think if Brenda hadn't reacted during the jury, the final tribal council, like she did, if she had reacted differently, would it have changed everything as far as the other jurors being bitter and then the fans becoming bitter? Would that have stopped it right there?
I don't think so. I mean, I do think that it played a big part in like fanning the flames. Mm-hmm. And I mean, for me personally, I know from being on the jury that there's, a little bit of groupthink. And that's attributed in my mind to a lot of things, the stress of the game, the amount of time you've been at Ponderosa, learning more as people get removed from the game and hearing like, what the hell? That happened? That's how I got out? Because you leave maybe not certain who instigated your, group voting you out or a group voting you out. And so you learn that from the next person when they get to Ponderosa. So I don't think it would have changed anything because I was like a mother figure. I've spent a lot of time. Dr. Liza is the psychologist for the show. And I spent a lot of time with her. And she said, like, people had a really, really hard time believing you had anything to do with them being removed from the game. Like, it was more personal.
Dawn, I'm not sure how much you've kept up with like any of like sort of like the Survivor talk over the years, but I feel like that your case is like often cited as like one of the reasons why it's so hard for women to win in the end at Survivor. And we see a lot of the Survivor moms get to the end and get no votes. And I feel like that a lot of times like your story in Caramoan gets brought up. Like, were you aware of that, that a lot of people still talk about your case in that season?
Yeah. And I think that's helpful. I would like to think that it doesn't play a role, but I felt like age played a role. I mean, I'm on a tribe where like Brandon was married. Mm-hmm. Philip had a son, but I don't know how much time, I've got 6 kids at home. I mean, I am the mother figure. I'm French braiding hair. I'm like, you need a tampon? Here you go. Mm-hmm. You can have one of mine. For those of you that don't know, we are given like a basic med kit that would allow for that so that you don't think that we're out there like suffering. Mm-hmm. We are suffering, but
mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. Like the case with Jeremy is like, Jeremy has kids. If he gets to the end, people will automatically vote for him. I wonder if that's the difference between dads and moms also.
I do too, because we don't expect as much of dads. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, that's changing. I think my husband would have been like, well, for one, he would have been a better player than me because he's great with puzzles. He's kind. He became really good friends with Brenda's dad. Mm-hmm. Nightmare. When I called him from Hong Kong because I was still with Dr. Liza and that was our layover. And he said, I've already seen on the internet. What am I going to do about Brenda's dad? Mm-hmm. I was so worried.
He did seem like a very nice man.
That friendship was over. Mm-hmm. And that happened the previous season because he bonded with Whitney's first husband. So he's like, I met this amazing couple, this amazing like husband. Yeah. And we're going to get together with them. And I'm like, you need to delete that phone number from your phone. Like, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
Both times he had to give up his best friend.
Yeah. That guy better get ready for some bad news and bad news.
Back to your comment about apologizing. Brenda's just kind of adored. Mm-hmm. I mean, she is in the game. She's beautiful. She's soft spoken. that worked to her advantage. She is awesome in challenges. She's really good in challenges. So I knew if I went to the end with her, because I had considered going to the end if I could with Eric and Brenda, but I couldn't see myself winning against them either. They're just so likable. I love Eric. I loved him. I mean, I made contact with him after and bought some of his artwork that was on, I don't know, mugs or something on Etsy. But I haven't talked to him since because I know he's really close with Brenda.
And Dawn, I know you're a huge fan. So I know you saw Brenda's gameplay in Nicaragua. I know when we talked to Nyanka, the Brenda that seems like was playing there, we didn't see. She didn't seem to be quite as vocal until the end at the final tribal council as she was during Nicaragua. Am I, Rob? You know more about this than me. What would you say about that?
My theory on this, and I've watched Nicaragua recently also, that, Brenda was like very cutting in Survivor Nicaragua, and she almost has nothing to say throughout the whole season until she gets to that final tribal council. But when her dad comes out, she says that, "Oh, Dad, you said be humble, that I've been doing it. This is my dad. He told me be humble." And then I wonder if then she, like, once she's out of the game, dropped that, and then more of the like regular Brenda came back.
Yeah.
The Nicaragua Brenda came back.
I think that my experience with her in the game is at least until a certain point, and I think other people would agree, maybe not Eric. She preferred to be alone. She spent a lot of time alone. She spent a lot of time swimming alone and going to like a certain cove that was pretty isolated. And she wanted to be home with her boyfriend. She talked about it a great deal, about like kind of regretting coming out and was that the right decision to leave him. She was really happy. And then he wasn't there. It was kind of her other half.
Yeah.
And I understand that. So yeah, I mean, I think she believed she could win. So as you get down to it, I don't fault her for what she said. To be honest, the thing that was odd to me was when religion was brought more into it, because I just don't talk about religion in the game. In
Caramoan.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that kind of blew my mind. I'm like, Reynolds.
Yes.
What on earth are you talking about? Like, oh, you talk about being, and I'm like, no, that's just false.
Yeah.
But
well, religion was brought up a lot in South Pacific, wasn't it?
Yes.
Between Brandon and Coach. I mean, no, not by you. But it seemed like it was brought up quite a bit in South Pacific.
It was. It was a little bit. It was a way different experience having that, and in many ways having it be more one tribe than the one I was on.
Right.
I mean, so that was a trip.
Yeah.
It was a trip.
Can I just go back to one other thing with the final tribal councils and the juries? Like, have you followed over the years, some of the other Survivor moms who, get to the end of the game and then are in that same position of being sort of like a 0 vote finalist or somebody who doesn't get a lot of credit? Do you think that there's anything that the show needs to address to, help out women who end up in that situation? Or is that on the players that they need to find a way to sort of like reframe their argument?
Well, I do love talking to Cochran about what he prepared for his final. He's like, I made sure I said each person's name when I replied to them, because people like to hear their own name.
Sure.
Like, he had a lot going on with his approach. And I think I focused a lot on my family and myself.
Yeah.
And
you had harder questions then. Would you go to the bar? Yeah. It's more of a firing squad than.
It's pretty funny when you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it is funny now, but yeah. Other than Denise, for me, that's the only thing that like flies in the face of the mom role for me.
Mm-hmm. But she was up against I mean, I know you had Sherry there, but she was up against also Lisa, who probably was the person who got the like, what did you do, Lisa?
Oh gosh, so painful. I don't know that there's anything they can do outside of bring on strong moms.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think I purposely, and this is the honest truth, I tried not to win very much. Mm-hmm. If I could, because I wasn't certain that was going to benefit me, because I started to hear in season 26, once we go to like individual, if you start winning, like you're out ski.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, in 23.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if you have, I don't know, I'm always looking for equivalents, not like cookie cutters, but just people that have skill sets that are similar. So you're not just looking at one person as the mom.
But, it really isn't fair, because I feel like a lot of times, and you talked about this, especially like in the beginning of the merge in Caramoan, where you would get information from the other side and share it with your allies. And often the male allies on your team would benefit from this information. And then who would the people be mad at? They'd be mad at you of like, how could you do that? And so it really isn't fair that, like, what are you supposed to do? Just keep this to yourself? Because if you tell anybody, then there's really nothing to be gained from it.
Yeah, you almost need more, at least where we are in society right now. I think that you need women that can handle alpha. Alpha. I mean, everybody there has this really strong interpretation of themselves. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, whether it's on purpose, I don't know. It did feel like there's some sexism, And so I definitely let production know, like, I'm leaving a job as a professor where I get to speak with both men and women, and I get to be in a position of like, I'm respected. And I come out here and I hear like, I don't even know what you would call it, like locker room talk. Mm-hmm. Like I'm subjected to listening to it like nonstop. And it's so unkind, in my opinion, towards women. Mm-hmm. And you're just sitting there thinking, I remember that's how Cochran and I kind of forged a bond, was just saying, is this how you planned on spending your summer? Listening to people talk about just not respecting another person. I mean, if it were about race, it would have been
right,
unreal.
Yeah.
I mean, people would have blown it out of the water, and those people would have been clearly called out. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, my experience in my 2 seasons was almost identical. Lot of camp talk about just not a lot of respect for women. Mm-hmm. So maybe fewer dough heads. I don't know. That's so rude. Yeah. See, there I am judging right back.
Mm-hmm. No, this is great. This is great stuff, Dawn. This is that. It's not exactly in the same thread as what we're talking, but that I loved. One of my favorite things from watching your 2 seasons is there's like the couple of weeks where, like at the start of the merge in Caramoan, where Corinne wants to bring you in about the plan to flip, and then she goes out after that gets blown up. But then for some reason, Malcolm thinks like, oh, I'll be able to flip Dawn. And you end up like, and Malcolm tells you like, hey, Reynolds has the idol. Don't worry about it. And it's like, I want to see the idol. And then Reynolds shows you the idol. And you have this great confessional where you say, you know what, Reynolds? Shame on you. Shame on you for showing me this idol. You shouldn't have shown it to me. And that's it. And now you have to, you're gonna pay for that. And I loved that from you. That was so great. And I know that eventually everything in the game is going to wear you down by day 39, but it just would have been so great to have that same sort of energy of giving shame on you to those guys or Brenda.
Yeah. I think I'm like forthright. I think I'm an okay read on other people, but I don't think I'm the best, obviously, because I didn't win. So I think Cochran had a better read, like lay low, get a sunburn at the beginning. But at least for Caramone, yeah, I definitely felt that way. Like, duh. I mean, I don't know how. I did try to forge a bond with Malcolm at the beginning. And so I think I played I'm all alone because I'm a mom. You know, you just got done playing. I'm going to need a fortress because there's no way I'm going to stand up to a lot of these people. So I think he kind of put me in his tier 2, at least. Yeah. I wasn't tier 1, but I was tier 2. So,
but you duped them. You tricked them. You put on a disguise and they fell for it. And then they were upset with you after.
I mean, it's an emotional game.
Yeah.
You're speaking at a time where it's all so tender and alcohol fueled. I mean, I was on the jury for 23 and I don't drink. And so you're and Cochran didn't drink at Ponderosa. We're getting transported to the final tribal council just laughing so hard at, like, people can't get out of the van.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I did read that you said that a couple of changes that you would make is to ban alcohol on the day of final tribal council. And it makes a lot of sense. And I guess I've really never noticed anybody that was just, slurring their words or anything, but clearly you're saying it's happened. So, I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
Oh, the Three Amigos, they're probably doing shots back there before they head on out.
Yeah. That's interesting. For all the talk that I have with people about these final tribal councils, like, I feel like, that's something that I don't think we've ever talked about, but yeah, it makes all the sense in the world. Like, I can understand that, why the production might be like, all right, well, maybe, let's let people loosen up a little bit. But, who wants to have drunk people in the, you've spent 39 days to get to this point. Why do you want to have people potentially ruin the final tribal council?
I didn't want them to. I think that, even to the extent that last breakfast that you get when you make the final 3, they have champagne, and I don't drink, and Cochran and Sherry both do. At that point, Cochran was, because he was so nervous. He said, I'm going to put this in my canteen, I think bottles for that one. No, canteens. And he said, I'm going to put it in my canteen and drink it like an hour, as much as he can gauge, because we don't know when we're really going.
Yeah.
And so he's like, oh, I feel so relaxed before we went out to find our stumps. And I'm on like the 2-inch stump PS.
Yeah. I just heard that I think Sophie did that also in South Pacific. Did. Yeah. It's like something that got passed along.
Fair. Out of everybody here, I'm stone cold sober, and there's 2 of me. One watching the game from above. Like, I'm hallucinating.
Dawn, I know in season 3 Africa, we didn't have any alcohol at all during the day at all there. Did y'all have it, Rob, for All Stars or for Amazon? Did you have alcohol the day
there were some that I don't remember anybody drinking before the final tribal council in the Amazon, and
you're not allowed to take it in transport.
Yeah, I was not I don't know what I was doing on the day of the final tribal council in the All Stars, but I was not. I wasn't there.
But for Amazon, I can tell you we didn't have it.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a smaller jury also. I don't know. Well, I guess it was only 8 people. But maybe it wasn't like as like there were definitely like some wild parties like at nighttime, but in the daytime, I don't remember too much going on in terms of like the day of the final tribal council.
Yeah, I do think you're busy that day sometimes you're meeting with production that day to help iron out, and they can make sure that questions aren't overlapping. And anyway, so I understand that you can be busy that day, but I don't doubt that there's a little extra courage for people. So there might be fewer nerves, but a little more courage too, because I've never, other than when, I've watched Brenda and Reynolds, I'm like, huh? Like, I'm the most open-minded person. There's no way that I would use my religion as, I just wouldn't. I mean, I think that's why I was on there. Like, I practiced my religion, but I would never talk about it with him or any of the people there.
Right. Unlike some of the other players in South Pacific, you were not like evangelizing when you were out there.
No, it was all personal. I did more meditating that season. It hurt me. It hurt me before. Like the whole process, because I sound so dumb, but like I loved everybody that we played with. Like I deeply loved them. They become your family. And I know some people go into it, no problem. They're playing the game. I think I made the tough decisions for myself. But the problem is I did the flip side too, which is that I like opened my heart. So as much as they were pissed when they got voted out, like it hit me. Like the day I lost my teeth, I went up to spend time and meditate by myself because I was so sad Corinne was gone. That was like my best friend. And that kind of showed to me like, oh, this is going to be tough. Because if you can take her out, you'll take anybody out. And I know it's a combination. It's not like I did that by myself. But yeah.
And Dawn, I read that was the most painful thing that you had done in the game was to vote Corinne out.
Yep. And thankfully,
I
mean this, thankfully, it really meant something to me that she accepted, like, this is the game, like I'm obviously hurt, but because I thought we had, a bond, that we were locked.
Yeah.
But gratefully she like accepted what I offered on my own, what Jeff didn't ask me to say.
And Corinne was kind of a little bit, I guess you say maybe shorted. She made the merge, but did not make the jury. Now, they should have made an allowance for that because she would have been great jury material.
Yeah, it really was bizarre.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I was just bizarre. I remember at the time.
Yes, T-Bird.
Do you have that message?
Yes, I do. You ready?
Would now be a good time?
Sure.
I think now would be a good time.
Okay.
Okay.
T-Bird has a very special message for you, Dawn.
Hey, T-Bird. I hear that Dawn said some really nice things about our connection together in Caramon, and I just came here to say that I felt the exact same way. I loved Dawn. I pretty instantly connected with her, and she became my best friend out there. It's a weird, sort of thing for someone like me to become so close to someone like Dawn, just because she's a responsible mom. And she doesn't party. She doesn't curse. I do both of those things, but there was something really special in our connection with each other. So much so that I felt like she was struggling and I wanted to tell her information I probably shouldn't have, which resulted in my blind side, which I am pleased to hear she regrets, still upset that it still happened. But forevermore, Dawn has a very special place in my heart, and it's always nice to hear that I have the same in hers. So I don't know, oddest couple ever, but Dawn and I really, really, really bonded when we were out there. I miss you and I love you, Dawn.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you, Corinne. I love you to no end. And I've told her I would give her a kidney. Like, I love her that much.
Wow.
And she said that I would probably have to give her a liver.
Oh, and know what's so interesting? Of anybody to react, like the way Brenda did compared to the way Corinne reacted, wouldn't you think maybe Corinne might be a little bit bitter? And the love that she has for you is beautiful. I love it. It's
because Corinne's
really
not a warm and fuzzy.
She took care of me.
She can hold a grudge.
She's so good to me, but I think for whatever reason, lightning struck. She was the person I was the most afraid of going into the game.
Yeah.
And just from watching her before.
Yeah. And I
can see that. I can understand that. I think I'd feel the same way, Dawn, because with Corinne, it's probably hard to know how she's going to react to you because, again, like she said, your personalities are different, and that she obviously has so much respect for you and vice versa, and y'all are so different. It's really, really a cool thing.
Yeah. So I think I loved the most, but I had like pieces of that in me for each person, even if they didn't know it. And maybe that's because I missed my kids and I like needed to have some kind of bond, unlike other people who like led a single life. And I'm like, isn't this so hard for you every day? And they would be like, no. I took time off of work and, yeah. And I missed my anniversary 2 years in a row. We had just adopted a daughter and son that were 10 and 5, 4 weeks before season 23. So hello, goodbye. And I was worried about them all the time. Like, are they adjusting? What do they think? What in the honk am I doing? Like, bye. We love you. I'm going to be gone a while.
So you missed your anniversary. Then you came home and told your husband he had to cut people out of your life, your friendships he was making while you were gone.
I know.
Whew.
I felt bad for him. He also had a really bad fall diving the second. So the family gets to come out, right? I never saw him in season 23 because I got voted out when he arrived in Samoa. So I never even knew he was there until I came home. Then with season 26, I did get to see him. I did get to play a challenge with him. And he was like, oh, I love Brenda's dad. I mean, that's the first thing he said in my ear. And I said, the person who wins always goes home. So we're going to lose. And he's like, oh, like my only time on the show, I've got to lose. And so I'm like, yes. And I don't know that we would have won, but I think he was like, this is gameplay I hadn't considered. But yeah, I don't know. I felt that way for everybody. And so that's probably why I had a hard time.
Yeah.
But nothing like Corinne.
Right. But was that extra hard for you? Because that, of course, everybody remembers that basically Brenda picks you and then they say, oh, wait, hold on. We have a surprise. There's another loved one who's ready to go. And Brenda, you could give it to everybody or you could pick one more person. And of course, she gives it to everybody. But to the fact that your husband had come out on location and then had to go home and you never got to see him. And then to like have the chance to finally get the loved ones visit after 2 visits in a year, and then to have it taken from you in that way, I'm sure that must have been so difficult to handle.
Yeah, that was my anniversary day.
Yeah,
that day, and I think you see me react more.
Yeah, I don't think they included that in the show.
Oh, really?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I was like extremely. It was the biggest outburst I'd had when we got back. And I think primarily because I was very, very hungry.
Yeah.
That would have distracted me. And I just love him so much. He's a really good guy. Like, he's a good human being. He's so good. And you're around this like dirty play, including yourself. So you're like a good person. Hi. And everybody's good outside the game. I don't think Like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying I played with a bunch of bad people. I'm saying in the game we're different people.
Yeah.
But it was hard because they were 30 feet off our beach having a barbecue. And Eric screaming, I wish you could have this lemon pie. You want me to say to a burger? And so I could smell it. I could hear them laughing. And I absolutely knew they were talking game.
Was he being mean? That he was like taunting? Yeah.
There was a lot. And it's amplified by my memory of it. Like over the years, it's like they were throwing hot dogs in the water, but that's not the case. When you retell a story over time, you're like, well, let me tell you. And that was the first season I'd seen where 2 people came. Yeah. And my best friend came. Yeah. And I never saw her. And oddly enough, she became really close with Andrea's younger sister, which was way cool. And they've met at the airport during layovers. Oh. They still keep in touch. Yeah. So there's a whole other side to the game, which is really beautiful and sometimes difficult. But yeah, I was upset. I think I was just on so many levels angry. So I guess gratefully they didn't show that.
Dawn, do you think those family visits, again, season 3 Africa, because of the location where we were, we didn't have any family visits. Do you think it's a way to recharge the players' batteries to have that family visit? Or do you think it kind of takes you out of the game and takes you away from, mentally out of the game where it's not a good thing? I guess there's several ways to look at it. What do you think?
Because I haven't done it myself, I don't exactly know first person what that's like. I only know what I've seen from people returning. And I think you see a mixed bag. People that are like, I'm ready to be home. And in our case, the family visit was very close to the end of the game. It wasn't like the standard day that most of the visits are that you're anticipating. If you're like a major watcher, you're like, oh, this is going to be episode whatever. So I think it looked to me like several people will recharge. Cochran was discouraged because his mom said, there's no way you can get to the end. Like, she had been analyzing what he had told her. So he came home pretty happy to see his dad and discouraged. And before I forget, his dad is the one that helped my husband who fell on lava rock on his back. Oh. They thought they were going to have to take him to the hospital. Yeah. So he has a bigger scar than I do on his back.
Yeah. Dawn, that T-Bird said this in the opening, that you had to go to the hospital after that tribal council at Caramoan?
Yeah. I was under the impression that the damage I had done to those people and to the people who know me was so significant that it was like my brain had flipped a switch and I just didn't believe I could go home. That I was so ashamed. And so what I said to Cochran is, I'm pretty certain I'm going to take my life, but my mic was on. Yeah. So people are partying because it's like the end, it's cut. Right. Everybody, the crew, the people who played.
Great job, everybody. So yeah.
Yeah. And I was when I was on the jury in 23. But that wasn't my experience. And everyone wants to talk to Cochran. So I was kind of like really alone. And so I kind of sat on that stump. And then eventually they moved me back to Ponderosa when we were doing the med check. Why can't I remember his name? Because they thought I had appendicitis before the game began. Yeah. The day before. And they helicoptered me to Manila. And I had more tests than I can ever tell you. And then they said, you can't tell anyone you've been in a helicopter. They still let me play the game. And the helicopter operators, on the day we got brought into the game, and I'm like, yeah, never been on a helicopter in my life. How cool is this? Okay. So yeah, they flew me to the hospital. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure they just put me on an antipsychotic right there. I never stopped crying.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a 70 hours, maybe at Ponderosa, maybe 40. It's all a blur.
Yeah.
And I cried the whole time. So
Dawn, was Sherry comforting to you? Because I think they were pretty rough with her at tribal council as well. How was she with
Eric
you?
said something like, as soon as I got there, Eric said, like, he had a lot to say to me, like a lot of cursing. And I was already crying. So Sherry, whoa, she's strong. She had words. She was a buffer. I'm grateful to her for that, because that would have just taken me even to a darker place than what I was. So yeah, she's tough. She's like, who cares what they think? I'm like, me?
Yeah, she said, I'm done with you. I don't need to listen to you. I don't need your vote. Obviously, I'm not going to get it, so you can sit down.
Oh, yeah.
Sherry, there you go, Sherry. Love it, Sherry. You tell him, girl. Dawn, I tell you, so she had to have been, like I said, she was comforting you. Another thing that you said you'd like to see change, and Rob and I've talked about this, and I'm 100% in agreement with you, 100% about sequestering the jury before, up into tribal council, because we were in Africa, and it's what you said, as far as, I think you said group talk is so strong, it can sway people in all kind of ways. And I believe you're 100% right.
Yeah. In an ideal world, I mean, we're sequestered before the game. It would be nice if we were sequestered after. But, depending on the amount of time you're there, I don't know, maybe that's just too difficult to do for 2 weeks. The downside is, because I was taken out day 27, really, I went to Redemption Island for 28. But in season 23, I was at Ponderosa, like, I felt like forever. And so what do you talk about? The game and food. That's really it.
Mm-hmm.
And refeeding syndrome. Apparently a 40-year-old doesn't do well just eating like 2 jars of peanut butter.
Mm-hmm.
But Dawn, I mean, you're right. They do it. They did it to us, while we go through casting for that week time. I mean, I know it's a little different, but even before the game starts, it's done. So, I mean, I just think that's really an important part of the game is being sequestered from each other. I think that's real important. Well, we were all still together. We just had chaperones that made sure we weren't talking. We were playing games or whatever we were doing, but we weren't talking game.
I can't imagine what that would be like. It's also healing, though, right? If you're on the jury side, it's healing to hear everybody kind of go through their own catharsis and say what they experienced. So I can see some value in that.
Yeah. Dawn, can I ask you just a little bit about your time on the jury in Survivor South Pacific? Because we've been looking back at that game, and I was trying to take a look at the people who were sort of like the pro-Sophie people that were on the jury. And then I also feel like that there was a contingent of people that were anti-Coach, who were just voting against Coach, and people sided on Sophie. But it seemed like from that final tribal council, it seemed like that you were one of you came down on the pro-Sophie side of things.
Yeah. I felt like she was kick butt in those challenges. And that's really, I just felt like outplay. Like, she did that. I mean, she didn't have to mold minds. To me, it was just this clean game. And that meant a lot to me. And plus, I spent time with her, like talking about Thanksgiving dinner. I mean, I've spent a lot of time in the house that Keith built for Whitney, the Love Shack.
Yes.
I spent a lot of time in there with Edna and Sophie, and just had so much fun. So part of that was also just knowing her well. The religion part rubbed me the wrong way. It was hard at the time. However, Coach was so good to me the day of my finale for 26. He phoned me.
Yeah.
And I'll forever be grateful for that, to say, I've been there. You're going to be okay. It was so nice.
Because he got raked over the coals pretty good at that final tribal council, right?
Yeah. And really, at Ponderosa, you've still got usually 24 to 48 hours before you're flown home.
Yeah.
So he's like isolated. No one's talking to him. I mean, it's like 7th grade.
Yeah.
I'm going to hang out with the cool kid whose dad is wealthy.
Dawn, did you see did you watch Winners at War, Dawn, with Sophie? Did you think she played a similar game as South Pacific?
Yeah. I don't know. I really admire the game she plays.
Yeah.
I do. She's pretty brilliant. That's my opinion of her. She's just brilliant in so many ways. And at that time, wise beyond her years. She was 21.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had 20 years on her. Like, I should have been Yoda, not her.
And it seems like in South Pacific, she was pushed behind a curtain, I guess. And I guess because of the strong male personalities with Coach and with Brandon and what was going on with Brandon and Ozzy.
Yeah.
So we probably didn't see as much of her gameplay as she was actually playing.
Yeah. I think we saw it more in her second season.
Sure.
And that was...
I know I did. I thought, okay, this is a strong player.
Absolutely.
Now, were you surprised that Cochran wasn't out there? Did you want to see him out there for season 40?
I knew he wouldn't be out there. We've had so many conversations about him going back, and he just feels like he can't do any better. He can only do worse. Really, he doesn't feel that he can win.
That makes perfect sense to me, actually.
I was surprised he went out and. What season was it where he went out and he
Game Changers? Yeah,
he coached her. I mean,
yes, Debbie.
Yeah,
I was Debbie.
Did that. Yeah.
Gave advice to Debbie. Dawn, can I ask you also? We talked a little bit about Cochran, but we haven't touched too much on Brandon. And, in watching your 2 seasons back to back, it really is remarkable to see, the transformation that comes, in Brandon's second season from where he was, just 10 months earlier when you saw him in Survivor South Pacific. And certainly in Survivor South Pacific, he is going through a lot of things, but he comes into Survivor Caramoan like almost a completely different person where, he's very outwardly trying to be and struggling with being this, good Christian, or at least what his idea at the time of a good Christian should be. And then, he seems to really embrace this, villain character by the time he returns in Caramoan. I mean, that must have been wild to see that transformation.
Yeah. My belief is we won so many tribal challenges because of him. His brute strength. But in the downtime at camp, he was so conflicted, right? Because he had made so many changes, and I think it was difficult. It was difficult for him. But at some point, for some reason, Philip became an obstacle for him. There was just either some personality conflict. I just don't know what that was.
Yeah.
Maybe he didn't there's a lot of discussion about books that you're going to publish. Not me, but Philip. There was a lot of discussion about, I'm probably going to get a sitcom out of this. And I think that was just brewing. And maybe for some of us, it was doing that too, but we weren't outwardly saying it because we wanted to stay in the game. Yeah, it was like night and day. There was a period of time where it just flipped.
going back to in Survivor South Pacific when he gives the immunity necklace to Albert at the final 5, that is I described it as a slow motion train wreck in the podcast that we did about the season, because the tribal council opens and Jeff's like, all right, tribal council, and he's like, I want to give the necklace to Albert, and he hands him the necklace as Albert, and then it is then a lot of discussion about like, has Brandon just made a big mistake? And I think that even he realizes by the end of that tribal council that he's made a big mistake. But Albert is saying, no. I think he's good. Yeah. So could I just, as a juror, what was your reaction to that? And did Albert's chance in the game really go away in that night? Yeah.
Yeah. Because he was aware at camp that was a possibility. Brandon had talked to him about it, had kind of promised him that was going to happen. So I think in that regard, he had heard enough of us say, no, you don't do that. Like, you didn't win it. He doesn't need, like, please don't do this. And so I think that might be because you don't see that in the show version of the game. Mm-hmm. I think enough people had already expressed their frustration with that happening and tried to stop it.
It's hard to watch. Yeah.
It's really hard to watch. And I think it's an example of what he tried to do leading into season 26.
Mm-hmm.
Were you surprised to see Brandon back out there as a favorite for 26, Dawn?
I was surprised to see everybody for this reason, because Holly had been at casting, because you still go through casting even if you've played before. Everyone was there at the same time except Dawn. So I didn't have an idea of who was playing. Cochran, we're not allowed to talk to each other but we all have each other's phone numbers and things from previous seasons and stuff. But I'm like a rule follower. So I didn't tell anybody I was playing. I didn't tell a single person. Jim, Whitney, Keith, Cochran, all those people. Well, John, I was keeping in contact with none of them. They're all like, oh, Cochran's probably going to play, but they knew. And I even spoke to you and you're like, would you ever play again? And I was on the elliptical machine prepping because I knew I was going. And so it's kind of funny that...
and you lied to me, Dawn?
I lied to you. Mm-hmm.
Dawn, how could you? Where do you get off, Dawn?
If you don't have Jeff True here...
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have Jeff True...
Apologize to me now, Dawn. Come on.
If you don't have Jeff Probst here, it's not happening. I'm not apologizing.
Rob, didn't you know her... her strategy going in is if you didn't have her same last name...
Right.
There was nothing sacred. So
because no Survivor players ever lie to me about if they're going to go back or not. That never happens.
Yeah, never. But Cochran, I thought his eyeballs were going to pop out of his head when he saw me. So we're all sequestered in a hotel, but we're getting ready to take our first flight, and that's the first time we can kind of size up who's there. We didn't know. None of us knew who Malcolm was, but everybody turned and looked at me because in their mind, I wasn't at that casting.
Yeah.
So I felt like, oh, I'm host. Mm-hmm. They've already got their tribes for sure. They're calling, texting each other. There's no way I can find a way in here.
Yeah.
So to me, that made it even more of a miracle that I got to the end.
And you and Cochran were together for your entire, there wasn't a day on Survivor when you weren't, in a tribe with Cochran. You were on Savaii together the whole time. You were at the merge. And then, of course, you get swapped together in Caramoan and all the way through 39 days in that season. And so, you have this bond with him that's sort of like, when you watch those seasons back to back, you forget it's sort of like Forged in Fire where you're both on the bottom at Savaii, and you're sort of looking like you're going to both go out early because that's you're not in that cool kids group that ends up coming together there. And so you're both fighting from the bottom. And, when it gets to the merge, Cochran confides in you that he is going to end up going and go on the other side, and so you knew. And I'm sure that we talked about this in the past, but I'm just curious. Like, have you given any thought to this in terms of like, if it was to go down again in that same way, would you have done it differently?
Mm-mm. No, I wouldn't have, because I think at that stage in the game, I was holding on to the feeling of how I'd been like perceived.
Yeah.
You're stripped of all of your identity when you begin that game. You build a new identity at age 41.
Yeah.
And so all the things that made me, in my mind, who I am, no one knows. And so the things that I was proud of, no one knows unless you tell them. And so I think at that stage in the game, I was probably hurt that I wasn't given more like kindness, I guess, or like faith in my ability. I still felt that I was like, well, I'm going home. Like,
yeah.
As soon as, I lose, I'm out. So I kind of believed Coach loved him.
Yeah.
I know I talk about love, but I mean, as far as the game context, I really believed that he was like going to keep him.
Yeah. It's an interesting parallel. And you talk about it in Caramoan, where that at the merge, the same exact thing where Corinne comes to you and says like, hey, I'm flipping and you should come with me. But in that season, you end up like acting on that, and Corinne gets voted out. And while that on paper, that seems to be the better move, it seems like that you don't seem to struggle at all with the decision to not rat out Cochran. But it feels like that you do feel like that, well, yes, it was the right game move, but that hurt so much to, turn on Corinne in that moment. So it feels like that for like, the way things end up working out, like for you, that is the better decision to, let Cochran do his thing.
Yeah. I think, again, I was like a newbie. So I was still, I was still caring about other people's games too. I think you see that in South Pacific. Like, I'm wanting the best for everybody. I'm trying to think. I didn't get to ask this question, but I remember saying, it was like important to me. Who needs this experience to help them grow the most? Like whether it's the finances or staying in the game longer. I don't know. I was like really practical about what's this experience going to do for you? How are you going to grow? I don't know. I felt like, the longer they're in the game, the better. And I felt like I was going because I knew where I stood with several of the people on my tribe. So I was like, if this is going to happen for him, then that's good. And I care about him and he's been through crap. So it's funny. My second game, I really was I'm going to be a different person. No one's going to expect it. And I'm going to make the calls that Dawn would never make. Dawn outside the game wouldn't make. And I did. And at times it was funny. Like when I would, go to like, when I would be, I don't know, interviewed or what are we calling it? I'm always calling it a walk.
Yeah.
But
yeah, talking with the producers. Yeah,
when you're talking to production, it's just you. There were times I was like, I saw The Idol. Hello. That's hilarious. Like, are people really showing me The Idol? I do remember though, there was like a threat attached to that from
Reynolds.
Yeah. He's like, I'll kill you. You're like, you betray me and you're going to be so sorry. And I was like, well, that did come back around at Tribal Council.
Dawn, at that final Tribal Council, when you knew you were up against Sherry and Cochran, especially, I guess, Cochran, you figured was your competition there. I think I had seen that Cochran said that he actually thought that you could beat him. And he also thought it would either be you would get 0 votes or that you would beat him. And he said he was going to do that you guys had played the same game or very similar games, and that everything that Dawn did that he had done. So he planned on going into tribal council to tear you apart. But when he saw the jury was doing it, he said he just sat back and played low key. Now, if the jury hadn't have been tearing you apart, has he ever told you what he would have said to gain the votes?
No, he hasn't, but I know he would have been. And we both said this before we went to final tribal council that day. Like, in the end, we both said we were going to play different games.
Mm-hmm.
And we have. And I was genuinely happy for him. He didn't even have like a driver's license. Like, this was life changing. He bought a car, but he had his dad fly out from the East Coast to go to the lot with him in California to pick it out. Like, he's so great. He's so John. Like,
yeah. Dawn, from the first vote that you two went to in South Pacific at Savaii at the first tribal council, that tribal council makes it seem like it was very close between Cochrane and Semhar going home. Yeah. And Cochrane has a bad tribal council, that first tribal council. He can't remember Semhar's name. He's talking about like, well, does it have to be based on what happened in the first 3 days? Because why is that the criteria? It's very interesting to watch because Survivor history is changed dramatically should the vote go against Cochrane. Was that close? It's an 8-1 vote, but was it like, a coin flip before tribal?
Oh yeah, it was close.
Yeah.
It was super close. I don't think we've ever talked about that vote. Sorry, John.
What? Oh, you were saying keep Semhar?
I liked Semhar at that stage. I didn't know John as well.
You didn't know how great he was yet.
Well, I was like, he'll be great. I was completely stereotyping people. It's like very early in the game. You're putting them in, buckets. You're like, okay, he'll be great at puzzles. We're going to be hosed if there's anything physical. Yeah. And it does seem like there's a few really big guys around here that don't like him.
Yeah. What was the deciding factor? How did it end up going for Cochrane instead of Semhar?
I think that Elise might have played a bigger part in that. Elise and Whitney. I think that they were able to bring him in, and Jim was close with him from the start. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think Jim was like, no, we're not keeping Semhar. And I think Jim struggled with her name too, which just irked me when everybody didn't get it. It was like really frustrating. I'm sure it was for her, but I think Jim probably turned Ozzy and Keith, because from Jim's perspective, that was his 3 final, like that's the group for final 3 for him.
Yeah. And in that first episode, it seemed like that the one time that you seem like you struggle in South Pacific is in those first couple of days where, Ozzy is sort of like he's like the cool substitute teacher of like hey, let's hang out, let's go in the water, and you are concerned of like, hey, aren't we supposed to have a shelter? Aren't we supposed to have a house right now? And you mentioned like, you want to keep moving. You're not good at I'm just going to chill here and hang out. And Ozzy seemed like that he gave you like it seemed like that he was able to sort of like give you a pep talk. Was that actually something that was helpful for you in the game?
I think I said it was helpful.
Yeah.
Because it kept me in the game. It helped Ozzy. I try to look back and say like all good people, all good intentions. My overview on Ozzy in that period of time was that he was extremely sexist, that like to the extent of like there were times when the men ate first. Mm-hmm. When he caught something. Now he could have eaten, he had every right to eat entirely by himself what he catches. Yeah. And knew Dawn might have done it when I played the second time. Yeah. I might have been that way. I might have hid coconuts. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying I did, but I might have.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, that just rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know. I felt like it was like talking down to someone. Like, I've got this spiritual wisdom.
Yeah.
I make my own kombucha. Which are all authentic to him. Now that I know him, that's pretty legit. I don't know about how he treats women.
Yeah.
Because I haven't really kept in touch, but I don't have like bad feelings about him now. I did then. Yeah.
Dawn, again, with being such a big, huge fan since season 1, if you had found out beforehand there were going to be 2 players that were going to show up on South Pacific in a helicopter, who were the 2 you would have hand-picked? And I guess go with guys since it was Ozzy and Coach. Who are the 2 guys you would have hand-picked? And then give us 2 women you would hand-pick.
Oh, gosh.
To play with.
That's rough.
Yeah.
There's so many people that I love. It would be hard to pick 2. I'm being honest. Because I would pick them for different reasons. And I have to tell you, like, I still fangirl out over you, Rob.
Oh, stop.
No,
Dawn.
I'm not joking. It's not even a joke.
Very cool.
That was like a pipe dream. And I adored you. And I thought you brought so much to, at that time, I called it the show. You are what kept me watching. So, yeah.
Stop. Dawn.
Yeah, I even said,
you're embarrassing me.
Very nice.
Yes, in front of T-Bird.
I don't think he wants to hear from me again. He's already heard from me.
No.
No, that's not true, Dawn.
Feeling of like, you have that feeling. There's certain people you meet that you're like, I played the game they played.
Yes.
Holy, wow.
Yeah.
Yep. I think it's great to play with people who have the skills that Ozzy does or that a Malcolm does. Gosh, I don't think I can answer that.
Yeah.
I know she was really impressed with Stephanie LaGrossa, which me too, Dawn.
My dream, and she's similar. My dream was to be strong like that. I mean, that was my dream. That's when I really started working out.
Yes. Jeff said in the finale about Dawn, you wanted to play this game. You changed your body to play this game, Jeff said.
Yeah. I went to 2 workouts a day. I lost like 20 pounds. And by the time I got to South Pacific, I could bench like 210.
210?
Yeah.
Dawn.
And that's why she could, That's why she could do the shoulder the load challenge, Rob.
Now, the shoulder the load did hose me for this reason. And now I'm at a blank. Stacy. They believed that Stacy possibly, and they found that this was but that she possibly was leaning the bamboo on her mic pack.
Mm-hmm.
It took quite some time for them to determine whether that was the case.
Yeah.
And I was dying at that point. How they reconciled that was to let me move it lower on my own back.
Yeah.
And that's when I got to move it.
Yeah.
But, I was thinking when it was time for them to choose who was going to do it, I felt like I could, like physically, but I didn't know if I had the tribe's trust at that point.
Yes.
So, I knew I could do it, but then the length of time is a little bit longer than what we see.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, in 6 minutes, she tapped out.
Mm-hmm.
It killed me.
How long did that last, Dawn?
It feels like it's still going on, T-Bird.
Yeah.
Well,
you still are dealing with the consequences. Yeah.
We're all still holding that damn bamboo.
Can I ask you about another challenge from South Pacific that we recently rewatched? Was the meat challenge, which we had that challenge in Survivor the Amazon, so we share that experience in common. It was the worst. Yours actually seemed worse, and Dawn, I was thinking about it. It was weird having watched the seasons in the reverse order because I'm watching you do that challenge, and then you talk about how you lost the top of a molar in that challenge.
I know.
And then I also couldn't help but think, like, oh my God, Dawn's teeth. Her
teeth are everything.
Yeah.
In every season.
And so, did you have an issue? Did you have an issue with doing that?
Because I have the retainer. Oh my gosh, that scared the pee out of me.
Yes.
I was so worried. Plus, I don't tear as well of meat.
Yeah, yeah.
So worried. And then you're like this close to people. Like Keith's giving me meat to drop in. And I was like, my gosh.
It was definitely a different experience in 2021 than it was in to watch it in 2011.
Yeah. What I did, though, was I think there were prods that held that pig on there.
Yeah.
And so I hit a prod and it broke my tooth.
Yeah. And so you had to have that fixed after the season.
After the season, I got it fixed. And then the only downside was a nerve was exposed.
Oh, Dawn.
And I love this. They're like, drink more water and swish with salt water.
Yeah. That'll cure it. Yeah.
So I tell my kids that all the time. Drink. I have a headache. Drink more water. Swish with salt water.
Yeah. That's the Survivor. Put some dirt on it. It'll be fun. Yeah.
Put coconut oil on it. It'll end your game.
Dawn, do you consider yourself old school or new school? Because you're right there on the line.
I mean, middle school. I'm middle school. I play because of old school. That's where my heart is. I play for that dream. That's like who I am when I got out there. It was that dream of all those early seasons that I never missed. And then I kind of, had my own experience. And after that, I did go through a pretty good depression. And so I've been hit and miss on watching a lot of the seasons. And I mentioned I didn't watch my own. So it's hard for me to say. Is that okay to not have an answer to that?
It is, but I'm telling you, as an old school player, I'm claiming you for old school.
Oh, okay.
I want you old school.
For old school.
I'm all on old.
Okay, good, great.
Dawn,
I'm 50 now.
I think Rob wants you to.
Yes. Dawn, do you have fond memories of your time with Tata the Bushman?
Oh my gosh. My kids just found a picture of that on the internet.
Yeah.
What the heck am I doing? I'm like standing next to this little man trying to make him comfortable. He's in like a red thong. He was the smallest man I've personally seen. And he was missing teeth, which I identify with, right? Like, we can get this fixed.
Yeah.
That was like so bizarre. It was pouring rain. And maybe someone else has said this, but we didn't really have any dry, tinder to begin. We didn't have anything to use because it was raining. So he started pulling the feathers off of the chicken alive.
Yeah.
So I look over and I'm like, is there the equivalent of PETA in the Philippines? Because this guy looks like he's not enjoying this.
Yeah, the chicken.
And it was so good. And so I was saying that to Brandon because he was holding it while the feathers were being pulled and used for kindling. And so he just takes it and breaks its neck immediately. And
Tata or Brandon?
Brandon.
Oh.
He's like, I don't want it to suffer.
Okay.
So then they got the rest of the feathers off of it. But that kind of blew my mind. Tata. Really? I mean, it started the fire, but really?
Yeah.
That's like pulling your hair out. I would have rather had him pull it out of my own head than watch this chicken and can't understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah.
If the machete wasn't dull, we could have cut some of the long hair.
Dawn, do you remember the time that we watched a Survivor episode with Penner and who else was there? Of course, Cochran.
Yeah.
Edna, I think, and Lisa Wetchell.
Yes. I loved that. And you know what? I've tried to reach out to Penner because my best friend had ALS during both seasons.
Yes.
And she had applied with me before she had ALS. Mm-hmm. So that was her dream. And then when I could have a friend come on or a second family member, I knew that I couldn't have her because her disease had progressed too far.
Yeah.
So she passed away 2 years ago. I could not believe that his wife,
Stacy.
Yeah, I remember her name, but I just couldn't. I don't know if you say contracted, developed. Mm-hmm. What's the right word? I couldn't believe she had that disease. It made me so sad. Mm-hmm. That's a disease of 1,000 surrenders. Mm-hmm. Every day is a surrender to something that meant something. So my love for him. Oh, he was so generous to do that. It was really fun.
Yeah, it was a fun night because then he had the remote control and would like pause the TV and would be like, "All right, so what is happening here?" You know, it was like a show. Also, it was like watching the show, and then also it was a show.
I had a hard time speaking because I was still blown away. I'm like, facts of life. Penner. Mm-hmm. Rob has a pot. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, it was it was a fun time.
I was going to ask you of the people you played with on South Pacific and Caramoan, who would you like to see have their second chance to play? Who do you think's deserving of a second chance?
Well, Edna's just so overly talented. She's kind of fun, but I don't know. She was so lean when she started the game. Felt like she was going to blow away. I mean, I don't know that Corinne wants to play a third time, but I mean, I would love to see her play. I just love her. And Michael. And so Michael Snow and he started making bread.
He's a sourdough guy, right?
Oh, gosh,
He actually went to school.
Yes.
He's gone to school to learn how to make bread?
Oh, he makes everything. Pastries. It's like legit. He has surpassed me.
I don't believe it.
If you follow him on Instagram,
I don't believe it either.
It's like there are the most beautiful pastries. He talked to me while I was in school. It's just awesome. Yeah, I would love to see Michael Snow play again.
What about Jim Rice?
Oh,
we almost saw Jim a second time.
Yeah, he was left at the altar with T-Bird.
I don't know how he recovered from that because I know what it felt like to have my bags packed and mailed, at least my clothing mailed. Mm-hmm. But he was right there. I mean, he thought he was going. I really think he did. But he's got a great family and kids. And I think that, you know, I don't know that he would play with kids. I always want to ask the people who played without kids, would you play now that you have young children? Mm-hmm. You know, would you be willing?
Do you want to ask me, Dawn?
I do.
When can I leave? Okay. Oh, you mean if I get voted out on day 3, I could sleep in for 36 days?
Okay.
Oh, Dawn,
my wife might not want me to go.
I mean,
yeah.
Parvati was out at Winners at War, and how old was her little baby girl?
Yeah, I think like 1.
She was young.
Mm-hmm.
So young. Mm-hmm.
Well,
she must have had someone that she really, really loved care for her, and so she could trust in that, because that would blow your mind.
Sure.
I worried when my husband said, I left the kids, I had to break them apart because there's 6 of them. But like, I left the kids for 2 weeks with this family, this family, this family. I'm like, are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. Not a lot of.
And Dawn, that's what I mean. Did he tell you that when he came out there? Oh wait, you didn't see him.
I didn't.
You did. You saw him at Caramoan for Caramoan.
The second time, I did say, if I'm in it, will you please look at this short list of possible families that we could leave? Because my parents don't live in the same state.
Mm-hmm. Then, do you keep in touch with Papa Bear, Dawn?
Mm-hmm. But only through social media.
Yeah.
I love him.
Yeah. So whenever I've rewatched South Pacific, then I feel like I can only say your name as Papa Bear, where I can only Dawn. Dawn.
That W.
Yeah.
New Yorkers. And my husband's from New York. So I think that might be where I like connected. And then my brother-in-law is gay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, Papa Bear, we are meant to be together. We're both old. I had so much fun out there with him.
He's a fun character.
Yeah. And that's who he is.
Mm-hmm. T-Bird, do you have anything else for Dawn?
Yeah, I want to tell Dawn to stop referring to herself as old, because even you were, 40 when you played then? Dawn, we were the same age when we played. I think I was 42. I think you were, yes! I think you were 42 when you played Survivor 26.
I was, because I had my birthday twice. I hit the international time zone.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask you one other South Pacific cast question, Dawn? Did you ever get in touch with Christine Markoski, who that she's when she gets voted out, she talks about how this was her 40th birthday that she was out there, and she seemed like that she was a very interesting character on the season. I know she was on a polo. Yeah,
she should play again. So wicked smart. Capable, obviously, with as long as she lasted at Redemption Island. I wanted her to go. I really wanted her to beat. Oh, because that was Ozzy, right?
Yeah, Ozzy knocked her out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
that
think
would have been a story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Christine had knocked out Ozzy.
She's amazing. Yeah, I kept in touch with her, oddly enough, about mammograms at the beginning when we were out of the game. But yeah, I mean, I'll always keep in touch with her, but a lot of this is just because of social media. Yeah. It ties us all, and that's a
good and bad.
A gift.
Yeah.
That's a gift.
Mm-hmm.
Dawn, I did have a couple of questions. One was, at Malo Grant. He wanted to know, and he said this in such a nice way for me to ask you this: why was Dawn so much more emotional her second gameplay than her first? You would think it would have been the other way around, but he says, no judgment, # I would cry too.
I think it's hard for people to believe, but I cared about people, and it was contrary to how I want to behave in my life, to be like, screw you. Put myself first. I mean, we adopted 6 kids because I don't want to have an easy life. I want to do what's right. And not that everybody should adopt kids, but that was what was on my heart to do. And so it was like, I was conflicted the whole game, over winning versus I have this thought of let's make this fair. Let's make the good person win, which obviously you can't measure. But, the crying is from that. And then I didn't sleep. I had a very difficult time sleeping. I'm going to say 2 hours a night. And that's just because my brain was running scripts, like a computer. It was like I was stuck, trying to figure it out.
Well, and it's easy when you're sitting at home on your couch where you're well fed and you're sleeping to judge. But you're right. When the game really tugs on you, I think it's harder emotionally and mentally than it is physically. So,
well, I cried when Corinne was on the call.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a crier.
Sweet.
I feel.
I think it was sweet.
And you're going to see it. And then it's going to annoy
And this is my last question. DB Troop wanted to know, how can a middle-aged mom play, earn respects, and get the votes?
Well, not the way I played. I thought there might have been some room for me on South Pacific. I felt like had I done a better job of creating an alliance, there might have been some room for me in more of the individual challenges.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was respected more, just liked more there, because the arc of my story was and then she came out of it. She was down and she started at the bottom. Now she's middle.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I don't really have any suggestions. I mean, I think the game's painful. So whenever I hear someone applying, I want to be optimistic because they're different than I am. But when my kids talk about applying, I worry. Not that they would play or get picked, but I mean, I worry about their spines.
I think you have to have tough skin. I really do. And when you're out there playing as a mom and you're thinking back about your children watching it, I think a lot of that comes into play.
Yeah. I'm thankful for the opportunity to play at that age because it wasn't happening in my 30s. So that phone call came out of really nowhere. Like these were old tapes that someone found. So when they called me, I was like, thank goodness I didn't change my phone number ever. So
you applied for 12 years.
I know.
The tenacity. I mean, that was
tenacity was Sherry, I think.
Helped you finally.
Yeah,
but Sherry,
I think they knew who I was probably.
What were you doing with your videos What were you doing with your videos, Dawn, every time you'd send in a new one? How would you switch it up?
I went to the live casting calls. I always went to the live casting calls. So all I had were those. Yeah.
So you didn't send a video in? You never sent a video in?
I applied and then later it was online. And I think, you know what? Once one of the people that invites you back, like for another interview or whatever, they said, we need you to do a video. And so they really just wanted a day in the life. So they wanted my children introduced. They wanted to see where I lived. They wanted to see like where I worked at BYU. So it was really more informational in my mind, but obviously your personality comes through in that.
I think going to a casting call would be a lot harder than sending in a video, only because what do you have, like a minute or 2 minutes to try to sell yourself? I mean, Katie Gallagher, I mentioned her again because she did a live casting call and she was telling us she's a nut, telling us how, trying to get noticed. I mean, that's hard to be put on the spot like that and come up with something quickly to get their attention.
And T-Bird is really good at making videos also.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes, Dawn, and I can't wait, Dawn. I can't wait.
Get ready.
She doesn't even know what I'm talking about. She doesn't know what I'm talking about, but
I think that the live casting call, the last thing I'll say about that is just that it's your first experience with intimidation in the game because you're looking at 200 people in line and you're sizing them up and you're like, where do I stand? Mm-hmm. Old is what I felt. Yeah.
Did you just say old again, Dawn?
Compared to the people in line, T-Bird, I'm telling you. I mean, it's kind of a young person's game, like young as in 20s. Mm-hmm. But I'm not saying
ignorance is bliss.
I don't feel like I need like a facelift or anything.
Dawn, thank you so much for joining us, talking with us about everything, especially as difficult as you've had ups and downs with it, that you'd want to rehash it with us. Thank you so much. And especially coming off of the seasons that Rob's doing, it's going to be great for the fans to hear from you.
You're so, so nice. I love you both so much. And I have to tell you that you will forever be locked in my mind as like, I want to do that because I watched you guys.
Oh, Dawn.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Dawn. My husband says my name.
Yes. So it's very familiar.
Yeah. I'm like, stop. You're not in New York anymore. He's like, it's my accent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dawn, this is so nice to get to catch up, and I'm happy to hear that you're doing well. And it's been so nice to be able to ask you these questions that I've been having from watching your seasons in the last couple of weeks. And yeah, it's been the nice thing about going back to these old seasons is you get to visit with some of these people from way back when.
I need to do that. That's probably healing for me. I probably need to do that because there's so many people I love from the season.
And look, that I know you don't watch your seasons, but you should at least check out South Pacific.
Yeah. I South Pacific I could do. I tell anybody that asks me, like all the kids that date my kids.
Mm-hmm.
Your mom was on Survivor? What season?
South Pacific.
23.
Yeah. That's like what I tell people about the Amazon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, love to you both. You're amazing. T-Bird, thank you for reaching out originally. And Rob, I still am blown away that I would share time with you.
Yeah, I was so happy when I heard that you were up for doing this. When I found out we're going to do these seasons back to back, I said do you think could we get Dawn? You think she would do it?
She would.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I didn't. It wasn't a sure thing because it's been so long since you are disconnected for the most part from the Survivor world. So there was no sure thing that you were going to want to do this.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'll always love and rep for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I'm sure you feel this way, but since COVID, it's like a lot more people, a resurgence of kindness for me and a resurgence of like, you're a POS. We now call our toilet Dawn.
No, people are sending you mean messages.
For sure. And I still say the same. It would be better for you to take this time. Oh yeah, I got one last week. Mm-hmm. That's what it said. I'm a phone for, you're a POS. We now call our toilet Dawn. And I just wrote him back and said, the time that you spend on this would be better spent writing Brenda. Mm-hmm. She needs to hear good. I've had enough bad.
I don't get that. Dawn, I'll be honest with you. I don't get that at all. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't get that. That's
well, at least you
hard
don't
to believe. No, I mean, I don't. No. I don't mean it. I don't mean it for me. I mean, I don't get it for you. I don't get it for you at all. I really don't. It's
the positive
very confusing.
The positive out of it is that I've been able to teach my kids a lot about social media as they've gone into their teens and, helped them when they've had experiences where they don't like what people have said. And when there are people who have their season airing or they've left knowing that the season's going to be rough, the show psychologist gives them my phone number.
Oh, you've talked to contestants that have gone through it. Look at you, Dawn.
Yeah. I'm like the unqualified, but first person experience. I will get you through. Hold my hand.
Yeah. Well, Dawn, let me just say that I know you've been off Twitter for 8 years. And so if I may, I just want to let you know you didn't miss anything.
That's right.
Oh, that's
right. Nothing.
Love to you both. And
nothing good has happened.
Nothing good has happened.
Yeah. Actually, a guy found some shrimp in his Cinnamon Toast Crunch this week.
Okay. That's actually awesome.
Yeah.
I might buy a box.
Okay.
Healthy.
Yeah.
Tell your wife and your 2 boys much love.
Yes.
And T-Bird, tell your husband thank you for hooking us up and helping.
Absolutely, Dawn. Thank you so much.
Dawn, thank you so much. This was fantastic, Dawn.
Thank you. And I'll never tire of your accent, T-Bird.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
I might ask you to record my message. Okay, bye.
Bye, Dawn.
Bye, Dawn.
Bye, T.
All right, T-Bird, there you have it, Dawn Meehan. Yes. That was great. That was great. I loved it.
I'm so glad she's decided to do it.
Yeah.
She's
so nice to catch up. We haven't really
seen much. Yeah. And we've not seen much of her, I guess since Survivor 26 for reasons that she mentioned. So it's great to talk about, to talk to her now. And especially after you did the recaps of South Pacific and Caramoan. What a perfect time.
Yeah. We nailed it. Pat ourselves on the back, T-Bird. No, pat you on the back. Okay. Great job with finding Dawn and tracking her down. So, T-Bird, what's next for you?
Well, I'm baking bread now.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm going to try to keep up with Dawn and see if I can get these 120 loaves in the mail.
Yeah. T-Bird, do you 120 loaves in the mail?
Well, no, Dawn, when I was learning about Dawn, she was baking 10 loaves of bread a day, and she mailed out like 120 loaves.
Yeah.
Now, I can't think of anybody that want my bread, but, hey, it's what I'm doing now. It's what I did yesterday. I was baking bread.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
Okay.
I enjoyed it. Now, I don't know if I'll stay with it or not, but anyway, I'm sure at some point Glenn's going to say, okay, enough with the bread.
Yeah. I got one of those back in the day.
What? A loaf of bread? From Dawn?
Yeah.
You didn't mention that.
Yeah. Way back when.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
So, all right.
Well, I know her favorite. I think I read her favorite is making sourdough. What kind does she send you?
I don't remember. I don't think it was sourdough. Yeah.
Well, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Okay. All right. So, T-Bird, can we talk about what we have coming up on the next Talking with T-Bird?
Yes, we can. Do we want to say?
Yeah, let's say it.
Do we want to say? Okay. Well, we're going to be talking with Anthony Robinson. What?
Yeah.
You told me to say it, right?
Yes, Anthony Robinson from Survivor Fiji. We've long wanted to talk to him on the podcast. And so Fiji is coming up next week on the Top 40 season countdown. So let's catch up with Anthony Robinson of the 28th best season of Survivor Fiji. That's going to come up next week on Talking with T-Bird.
Yeah, I'm already enjoying him because he seems to have a sassy personality.
Yes.
And I like him already. What a shame we didn't see him that we didn't get to see him longer.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I've been talking with him on Clubhouse.
Yeah, he's going to be fun to talk to.
Yeah. Okay.
Definitely.
All right. Well, then, T-Bird, this was another fun one. Where could people let you know some other ideas for people to reach out to?
At T-Bird Cooper.
T-Bird Cooper. All right, of course. And if you missed our recaps of Dawn's seasons, of course, the 30th and 29th best seasons of Survivor, respectively, you could catch those on our podcast feed at robhasawebsite.com. And of course, your support for these podcasts is always appreciated, and everything we have going on in our patron podcast feed, including weekly patron activities and much more, is all available for you at robhasawebsite.com/patron. T-Bird, anything else?
No. Can't wait to talk to Anthony, and I can't wait for to keep listening to the countdown. I'm curious to see where Africa is.
I think we got a ways.
I'm not ready for it to hit yet.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
We got a little time. All right. Good. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye. If you stay here and listen, your life won't ever be the same. 'Cause we're talking with T-Bird now. This T-Bird you cannot change. Oh, and things might get pretty strange.
Support for this podcast comes from our friends over at Geico. Do you own or rent your home? Sure you do, and it's hard work, but you know what's easy? Bundling with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your home and car insurance, and it's a good thing, too. You're busy enough. Go to geico.com, get a quote. See how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today.